The 52nd Intercity Pace will be run at Maitland on Saturday night, a $35,000 race, and it has been won by some very smart horses in recent years. Now, the heats for this year's running were held on Sunday at Maitland. 5 heats run in total. Let's hear from a couple of the connections of horses that are through to the final.
Okay, so after the first heat of the Intercity Pace, Robbie Morris was successful there on Mr. JC, Robert. Pick-up drive off Blake. Was that always on the cards?
Yeah, I think Blake's got to go to drive Keystone Dell next Saturday night, so it sort of was probably pointless him coming up to drive him to this afternoon, so I was lucky enough to pick up the drive and see how we go for next week.
Overcame the wide barrier, barrier 6. A C4 drawing a frontline barrier in an inner city pace is a bit rare at Maitland, so it's likely you're going to draw the back in the final, but in the heat you've overcame the wide draw. Yeah,
definitely. He's sort of not one of them sort of horses. A good draw's probably not real that good to him anyway. He doesn't have a lot of speed out of the gate, and he's better off just getting into the late sort of mid-race and rolling along. So I'm sure wherever he draws, he'll still be a good show.
And just quickly, I did hear a little whisper along the grapevine that this horse had been set for this race. Had you heard anything similar, or were you aware from the stable?
Yeah, definitely. Richard and his son Adam Baverstock have had this race in their plans. I think he could have probably been ready to go 6 weeks ago, but they've held him back for this race, and so far the plan's paid off.
Oh, well, best of luck to them in the final. Hopefully you can hold the drive in the final.
Yeah, thank you.
After the second heat of the Intercity Pace, David Morris was successful on Inception for Roy Roots from Gillaby. David, you were able to lead throughout.
Yeah, it's about time we got a decent barrier draw with him. We'll be able to hold the front on him. He's a different horse when he's in front, and he proved that today.
Does he like the smaller track, or he still goes on the bigger track as well? Was the smaller track an advantage?
Oh, I don't think it was an advantage over it, but I think he's definitely more of a leader kind of a horse. But yeah, Maitland being a small, tight track, it just made everything a bit harder for everything else to come from behind and try and catch him.
Yep, so a C1 in the race with a C2 front, so you're considered a C2 in the event. You'll be considered a frontline draw, you would think. You'd be very unlucky, I'd think, to be drawing a back line if the numbers fall that way. So front line, you'd be a good chance in the final, mate.
Yeah, if we draw decent enough, I think we'll be planning to go forward and try and lead again. So we'll see what happens when the draw comes out. Yeah.
So best of luck for that one. Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
After the third heat of the Intercity Pace, here with Luke McCarthy and all eyes on us. Luke overcame the wide barrier, barrier 6, and muddled the pace a bit fast, bit slow, bit fast at the end.
Yeah, he hasn't raced for a year and a half. I think he forgot how to race. He only had the one trial back at Menangle, and all his races as a 2-year-old were over a mile, and you know he's got a high cruising speed. He was just cruising along, and when he didn't have any company outside him, he just sort of went to pull up, and once the horse come up and got up outside him again, he got going again.
And that heat 3 or 4 seconds quicker than the other two, without taking anything away. Of course, it's all competition in the final, but after 3 heats, you being the fastest qualifier, there might be a tiny bit of confidence there.
Oh yeah, this is a really good horse. He was a great juvenile. He was second in the Australian Pacing Gold, and he's won 100,000 already. And he paced 154 miles at 2. So he's got the ability, but he's still got to learn how to race. And hopefully, if he could draw good in the final and lead, and you get a nice horse up outside him, to keep his mind on the job, I'm sure he'll run a really good race.
I did say earlier, somebody earlier, you'd be unlucky going into the race considered a C2, even though you're only going to be assessed as a CO in the final. You're going to be unlucky to draw a backline draw at Maitland in an inner city pace, so you should get maybe frontline draw there.
Yeah, hopefully. I guess it just depends on how many C2s qualify, but if he draws, hopefully we can draw on the front row somewhere handy.
And just quickly, you've got the Lee Plunkett Foundation colours on, so out and working hard for that.
Yeah, it's it's good to get it out there, and there's a few drivers Australia-wide wearing them for the month, and it's just a pleasure that they asked me to wear them.
Well, it's good to see them get a victory at Maitland, so well done. Good luck in the final.
Thank you.
After the fourth heat of the Inner City Pace, here with trainer of the winner, Kerry-Ann Turner, and the winner was He's a Swinger, led easily from barrier 2, Kerry-Ann.
Yeah, no, he has a nice bit of gate speed, so he was able to use that today and dictate his own terms.
And a last start winner at Bathurst, so makes the transition from the big track back to the small track quite easily.
Yeah, no, it was his first go at a little track. We trialled him at Penrith a couple of weeks ago just to make sure that he would get around a small track, and he passed doing that, so we thought we'd bring him up here and give him a shot at the big money.
And of course, you've been to Maitland before, but an inner city pace ever been on the agenda before?
No, I can't say that we've actually had one contest the heats here, so yeah, it's really nice to have a finalist.
Oh, well, heading into the $35,000 final, if you can draw a nice barrier, you although got some stiff competition there with those other heat winners, they were impressive, but I think you were just as impressive. That front line's going to be, it'll be dynamite, I think, on Saturday night.
No, definitely. It's always a hard race to win. Just very nice to have one in it. So, yeah, if we're thereabouts, it would be really good.
Thanks very much, Kerry Ann. Best of luck in the final.
Thank you.
After the final heat of the 52nd Inner City Pace, winning qualifier there was Strathlochlan Andy, trained by Jeffrey Harding, driven by Matthew. Matthew's with us at the moment. Matthew, another Barrier 6 winner, three heats, three Barrier 6 winners. You went to the front about 2 laps to go and pretty much improved your position.
Yeah, well, there was a bit of speed on early, and I just sort of cruised him up, and he was he was the class runner in the field, so I was expecting to get the front, and yeah, he went well.
He was the class runner in that field, with due respects to the competition, and I think fair to say one of the better chances of the local contenders. Do you think so?
Yeah, well, if he gets a bit of luck in the final, I think he'll run home pretty well. He's not usually driven to the front. He was a bit lazy and switched off a bit, but he'll improve on that.
That C3 assessment there is, it'll be interesting. We haven't had a chance to have a look at all of the other qualifiers to see where the C2, C3, C4s qualify. So would you be disappointed if you drew Barrier 6 again?
Yeah, I'd prefer 7 or 8, but yeah, I don't know what's been winning them, what grades and that. We'll just see what happens.
Yeah, mate, nice to have one in the $35,000 final anyway, and a local victory. We're pretty parochial about our Maitland people, but, mate, if you're happy to take it back to Bob's Farm, we're happy to claim you as a local, so best of luck in the final.
Yeah, thanks for that.